Solving quadratic equations. So complete the solution to the equation x squared minus 9x plus 20 is equal to 0. Now it's called satisfying the equation when we determine what the values of x can be in order to make this equal to 0. So the first thing we need to do to solve this equation and to find the solution to the equation is we need to factor it. All right, so when I factor this, I know that I need to find a product of 20, and I need to find a sum of negative 9. Right, so to find a product of 20 and a sum of negative 9, I'm going to use the factors negative 4 and negative 5. So because they're both negative, it doesn't really matter where I place them, so that's going to be x minus 4 times x minus 5. So x minus 4 is equal to 0, or x minus 5 is equal to 0. So if x minus 4 is equal to 0, that means that x must equal 4, or x must equal 5. So 5 minus 5 is 0, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So the solutions are x is equal to 4 and x equals 5. Or x is equal to 4 and 5, like that. Okay, so I'm not going to do all the problems this time. If you know how to factor, you'll have the general idea of how to do this, okay? So the first two questions are difference of squares, and so because this one is a little different than this one, they're both difference of squares, but I'll show you, I'm just going to do B, and you should be able to do A here. All right, so if I know this is a difference of squares question, then I know right away that if I were to have 4x squared, then if I take the square root of this, that's going to give me 2x minus 3. But since it's a difference of squares, it's going to be 2x minus 3, 2x plus 3. All right? And so if I know that 2x minus 3 is equal to 0 on one part of my equation, then if I were to solve for x, that's going to give me 2x is equal to 3, x is equal to 3 over 2. All right, so that's positive. And all I did was, you don't have to do it algebraically, you can just look at it and know that you take this one and divide it by this and then flip the sign to give you positive 3 over 2. And on the other side, you're going to end up with negative 3 over 2 because you're going to flip the sign and divide this 3 by this 2. And if you do it algebraically, I'll show you why that works. 2x plus 3 equal to 0 will be 2x equal to negative 3. X is equal to negative 3 over 2. So x is equal to positive or negative 3 over 2 in this case. Okay? Now, these two, C and D, are also very similar. So I'm just going to do, I'm going to do this one here just because there's another value of C. Alright, and so if I do that, I got to factor out the 10x in this case. So that's going to become 10x times x minus 9 equal to 0. And if I were to solve for x in both cases, I'm going to be left with x is equal to 0 or x is equal to positive 9. So then my values of x are going to be equal to x is equal to 0 and 9. Okay, so I'm going to skip this question and I'm going to move down to one of these ones. Okay, so solve the equation 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 is equal to 0. So the first thing we need to do is we need to look at what we have here. When you have a question that's set up with a coefficient in your b column, so if we were to set this up as ax squared plus bx plus c, if you have that as a coefficient, then we are going to use the method of decomposition in order to factor that to begin with. Okay, so I have my product is going to give me negative 30, and my sum needs to add up to give me negative 13. Okay, so the two numbers that are going to multiply to give you negative 30 are going to be 15 and 2. One of them needs to be a negative, and that'll be negative 15, because if I add positive 2 to negative 15, it'll give me a sum of negative 13. Okay? And so if I factor this out, that'll be 3x squared minus 15x, that 15 came from my factor over here, minus 15x plus 2x minus 10. And now I need to take the x's out of here. This will be 3x, x minus 5, plus 2, and take the factors out of here. They're both divisible by 2, x minus 5, and that's equal to 0. And so then what I'm left with is x minus 5 times 3x plus 2. Again, we're saying that equal to 0. And so then x is going to equal to positive 5, or x is equal to negative 2/3. And so another way we can write this is x is equal to 5 negative 2/3. And then we would approach this question, this next question, B, the exact same way. Again, if you already know how to factor, then all you got to do is to begin by going 5x plus 30x, and because we have 25 on this side, we have to bring it over and set this equal to 0, and then we can solve for our x values. All right, but you can do that by yourself. All right, so now problem solving with quadratic equations. So some problems in math can be solved by the following procedures. So introduce a variable to represent an unknown value, form a quadratic equation from the information that you're given, and solve the quadratic equation using the methods in this lesson. So the methods being solving your x values and also incorporating your knowledge of factoring into your methodology. So factoring by inspection, factoring by decomposition, using difference of squares, and then getting your solutions that way. Okay, so let's look at this example. The area of a rectangular sheet of paper is 300 centimeters squared. Okay, so we have a sheet of paper that's a rectangle, and the area of this is 300 centimeters squared. The length is 5 centimeters more than the width. Okay, so I'm going to call this my width, and this is my length. I don't know what either of these are, so I'm going to call my width x, and I know that my length is 5 more than my width, so I'm going to put a bracket around the x, and I'll put a bracket around my length. And since my length is 5 centimeters more than the width, I'm going to say that this is x plus 5. So form a polynomial equation and solve it to determine the perimeter of the rectangular sheet. Okay, so we know that area is equal to 300 centimeters squared. And I know that in order to find area, the formula for area is length times width, right? But I know that the answer is 300, so that's the area itself. And I know that length times width is equal to 300. And I know that my length is x plus 5, and my width is x. But I'm just going to kind of rearrange this so it's something you're more used to seeing. It's going to be x times x plus 5, since that's my width and my length, and that's equal to 300. All right, so the next thing we need to do is let's put this into a form that we can kind of work with, that you've seen before. All right, so this is going to be, if we expand this, that's going to be x squared plus 5x will equal 300. Now if I have x squared plus 5x, if I bring the 300 over here, that'll become minus 300, and we'll set that equal to 0. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is pick out our factors. I know that I'm going to need to multiply to give myself a product of negative 300, and I'm going to have to find a sum of positive 5. Alright, and so my values for this are going to be, hold on, I'm going to have to grab my calculator, I'll be right back. Alright, so let's see what we got here. So 300, let's start with divide by 25. It's 12, 25 and 12, I'm not going to get 5 out of that. And so let's go 300 divided by something smaller, 20. 20 and 15. Perfect, I can get 5 out of that. Okay, so I know that my factors are going to be 20 and 15. Now, I'm not sure if, I know that one of them has to be positive and the other has to be negative. All right, and so if I'm going from, if I'm getting to positive 5, then that means that I'm going to have to subtract 15 from the 20. So I'm going to have a positive and a negative there. Okay? So I know that then, if I were to factor this, set that equals 0, I have my x's there, and it's going to be plus 20 and minus 15. Okay, so I know that x is going to be negative 20 and x is equal to negative 15, or positive 15, sorry. I know it's positive because there's a negative there, and I know this is negative because there's a negative here. Okay, now this is when we need to use our logic and reasoning in math, because if I have my x value equal to negative 20, how can you have a negative length, right? You can't have a negative length, because if I were to plug x into this equation, negative 20 plus 5, I'm going to end up with negative 15. And so you can't have negative 15 centimeters, and so we know that it cannot be x is equal to negative 20, so we must know that x needs to equal positive 15 in this case. Okay? So let's continue here on this side. So if x is equal to 15, then the width, since my width was just x, my width must equal 15 centimeters, and my length, being x plus 5, my length must equal 15 plus 5, or 20 centimeters. Alright, and so the next thing we were supposed to do was form, we formed the equation, but solve to the perimeter of the rectangular sheet. And so remember that our perimeter is going to be equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, or length plus width plus width. So that's going to be 2 times 20 plus 2 times 15. So 2 times 20 is going to be 40, plus 30 is going to give you 70 centimeters for your perimeter. Okay, so the diagram shows the cross section of a water trough whose sloping sides A and D and B, C, so these sloping sides here and here make an angle of 45 degrees with the horizontal. Okay, so this is the horizontal here, and the horizontal length is 36 centimeters. So we want to show that the area of the cross section, okay, so the area is this whole section here is x times 36 minus x centimeters squared. Okay, so let's tackle this. Now, I know that in order to find the area, we actually have 3 separate shapes. We have 2 triangles and a rectangle. And so we'll find the area of all of these and then combine them into one. So I'll call this area 1 and 2 are the same, so I'll call them the same. And then area 3. Okay, so let's solve, first of all, my first area. If this is 36, I know that from here to here is 36. And if I find out if I want to find out what this length is, then I could say that, well, this length and this length is equal, right? These two triangles are similar, and they're actually congruent, and so I know that this side must be x and this side must be x, so they're equal. If the total length from D to C is 36, then if I'm focusing on the length of A to B, then it must be 36 minus whatever these lengths are. So I could say that that's going to be, the length is 36 minus 2x, right? Because I went x plus x and subtract that from my total length, which would give me this length of the area for my rectangle. Okay, so if this is my area 1, I now know that it's going to be x times x. Area of a triangle we know is 1/2 the base times the height. The area of a rectangle is length times width. And again, we have another triangle, so that's going to 1/2 base times height. And so I know it's 1/2 my base times the height. My base is x and my height is x. So that's going to be 1/2 x times x, or 1/2 x squared. It's going to be the same thing for my second triangle, 1/2 x times x, or 1/2 x squared. But my third triangle is going to be the length times the width. So that's going to be, my width is x times my length is going to be 36 minus 2x. And that's going to be equal to 36x minus 2x squared once I expand that. So then my total area is going to equal 36 minus 2x plus 1/2 x squared plus 1/2 x squared. So 1/2 x squared plus 1/2 x squared will just give me 1x squared. So then if I add -2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2, then what I'm going to be left with, 36, oh sorry, this is 2x squared. What I'm going to be left with, and this is x. So what I'm going to be left with is 36x minus x squared. Okay, but I want to find, I need to prove that the cross section, the area, is x times 36 minus x. And so all we need to do now is factor this to give us, if I pull out the x out of x squared and out of 36, it's going to be x times 36 minus x centimeters squared. Okay, now let's look at the last problem. If the area of the cross section is equal to 260 centimeters squared, determine the value of x. Okay, so we know that the area is equal to x 36 minus x. But we know that that is equal in itself to 260. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is find out what our actual value of x is. Okay, so I'm going to expand this again to give me 36x minus x squared is equal to 260. Alright, and rather than bringing my 260 over here, I'm going to bring everything over here just so I have a nice positive x squared value. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, or I'm going to subtract 36x from this side, and then I'm going to add x squared to this side, which would add to this side. And then I'll leave 0 over here. So that's going to be x squared minus 36x plus 260. Okay? And so now I need to find a product that is equal to 260 but has a sum of -36. Okay, so what is that going to be? Let's try 260. It's always nice to start with 50. No. How about 10, something else that ends with a 0. Okay, 26 and 10. Okay, that will work because, and they'll both have to be negative. If I have a negative multiplied, so 26 times 10, that'll give me 260. But if I add those together, negative 26 plus negative 10 will give me negative 36. So those are my two factors. So 0, x and an x, minus 26 minus 10. So x is equal to 26 or 10. Okay, so let's see which one it's going to be. It's only going to be one of these values. So if x is equal to 26, let's look at our initial, there we go. So let's see if x can in fact equal 26. So one way we can do that is just plug it into our area. Okay, so we know that the area of this whole region is going to be x times 36 minus x equal to 260. Okay, so let's say if x is equal to 26, 26 times 36 minus 26, what does that equal? 26 times 36 minus 26 is equal to 260. Good. And let's see, 10, 36 minus 10, 260. So can it equal, according to our calculator, both of them will equal 260, which makes sense because that's what our quadratic equation told us. But only one of these answers is going to be possible. So if x is equal to 26, the length of the rectangular area, because remember, our rectangle was 36 minus 2 times x. And so if let's think about our length. That's our length of our rectangle. If that was 36 minus 2x from our previous diagram, then if x is equal to 26, 36 minus 2 times 26, we're going to get an answer of our length equal to negative 16, which we can't, remember, we can't have a negative length. And so it can't be equal to 26, but can it be equal to 10? Let's see, plug that into our length. If our length is 36 minus 2x, then we're going to have 36 minus 2 times 10. That will work out, okay, because that's 36 minus